Welcome, everybody, to Cincinnati Reds Weekly on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. I'm your host, Mike Goodpaster, and today we're going to look at three non-roster invitees that could make the Cincinnati Reds opening day roster. And we'll also look at how a trade to the Cardinals for Nolan Arenado could hasten the Cincinnati Reds trade pursuits. Now, the Cincinnati Reds announced the signing of several non-roster invitees this past week. We're going to look today at the three that may have the best chance to make the opening day roster. Now, the Reds' opening day roster is starting to become more clear. The additions of Shogo Akiyama, Mike Moustakas, and Wade Miley certainly are all but assured to be suiting up for the team on March 26th against the St. Louis Cardinals. But which of the several non-roster invitees have the best chance to make the team coming out of spring training? So, let's first look at what exactly is a non-roster invitee. Essentially, a non-roster invitee is invited to Major League camp but is not part of the team's 40-man roster. The invitees are able to compete for a spot on the Major League roster, and last season saw Derek Dietrich and Jose Iglesias make the squad after receiving a non-roster invite to spring training. The odds are stacked against such players, and typically clubs will invite high-level minor league players and veterans signed to minor league contracts like Jonathan India and Nick Lodolo. The last two first-round picks for the Reds get invited to Goodyear, Arizona. Now, Cincinnati has made several additions already and are looking to be competitive this season, so a spot on this team is going to be harder to come by than it has been in the previous years. However, the roster expands to 26 in 2020, so who among those non-roster invitees has the best chance to make the opening day roster? We're going to start off with R.J. Alens, a right-handed pitcher. I'm bad with names. The Cincinnati Reds can use as many bullpen arms as they can, and I think all of Reds country feels comfortable including Michael Lorenzen, Amir Garrett, Robert Stevenson, Raziel Iglesias, and Lucas Sims among those who are locks for the bullpen in 2020. That leaves three spots up for grabs, and R.J. Alens could snag one of those last spots on the roster. Alens was originally part of the Seattle Mariners organization to begin the 2019 season, and it was an experience he'd probably like to forget. Alens started the season with Seattle's AAA affiliate, the Tacoma Rays. He was called up to the big leagues on April 12th and gave up 4 runs during his 2 innings of work. Alens was then picked up off waivers by the Reds in May and sent to AAA Louisville. In 24 games with the Bats, Alens allowed 25 hits over 27 2/3 innings of work. He struck out 31 batters and allowed just 1 home run during his time in the Derby City. Alens ended his time in Louisville with a 2.93 ERA before being promoted to Cincinnati. R.J. Alens pitched in 12 games for the Reds, going 11 2/3 innings, allowing 7 runs, walked 4 batters, and struck out 7. The Reds outrighted Alens in December, but he signed a minor league deal with the club and will be in Goodyear for spring training. Alens will have an uphill climb to overcome the likes of Matt Bowman, Cody Reed, and Sal Romano, but he'll be given that chance. Next up, the Reds have Matt Davidson, who's an infielder. He made his big league debut several years ago with the Arizona Diamondbacks and found some measure of success between 2016 and 18 with the Chicago White Sox. Davidson never made it onto a major league field last season after signing a minor league deal with the Texas Rangers last spring. Davidson spent his entire 2019 campaign with the Rangers' AAA affiliate, the Nashville Sounds. While in Music City, Davidson did flat-out rake the ball. The right-handed slugger slapped .264, .339, and .527 with 33 home runs and 101 RBIs. Cincinnati was fortunate to acquire his services this winter, as that kind of power is certainly coveted among major league GMs. Davidson, unfortunately, is a bit of a defensive liability. It also happens that he plays 2 infield positions that are pretty well spoken for with the Cincinnati Reds, spending most of his big league career playing first and third base. It is hard to see Davidson unseating the likes of Joey Votto and Eugenio Suarez. However, the quality backup may be needed on next year's squad. Currently, the best backup to Votto and Suarez may be utility infielder Kyle Farmer. Farmer also possesses a ton of versatility and can play second base as well as catcher. Having a right-handed option off the bench capable of playing first base may be just what David Bell is looking for. A solid spring could land Davidson on the 26-man roster to start the season. Our number 3 guy here is Christian Colon, who is an infielder. He spent most of last year with AAA affiliate Louisville. A versatile infielder, Colon landed a spot on the Reds roster for the home stretch of the 2019 season. All Colon did in his 6 at-bats was snag 3 hits and put up a 1.125 OPS. Okay, I know that's a small sample size, but all kidding aside, Colon put up great numbers at AAA Louisville, could make this team this year. Colon's heroics in Game 5 at a 2015 World Series are well documented. After spending the entire 2015 playoffs on the bench, Colon was called up in the 12th inning of a tie game. Colon's go-ahead single to score Jared Dyson gave the Kansas City Royals the lead and eventually their first World Series title since 1985. Christian Colon is a capable fielder, able to play second and third base as well as shortstop. Currently, the Reds are a bit thin at that position, with Freddie Galvis slated to start the 2020 season as the team's starting shortstop, barring any trades. Backing him up is likely Alex Blandino, who has yet to show that he can hit major league pitching consistently. Now, Colon never amounted to much more than a utility player for the Royals, and it's unlikely he'd serve a larger role than that for the Reds. However, a veteran presence in the clubhouse with postseason experience who has a career on-base percentage above .320 can offer a value for next year's ball club. Now, there are a few more players among the non-roster invitees that could break through onto the Reds roster, but it's unlikely for them to break camp with the big league club. Vladimir Gutierrez, Nick Lodolo, and Alex Powers could sneak on to next year's roster at some point as well. Now let's transition and look at the Reds starting pitching for next year, who I think could be the ace for the year coming up. And I think Trevor Bauer had a rocky start to his career with the Cincinnati Reds. I think with a full offseason under his vest, though, he could be the team's ace in 2020. Bauer had a rough transition from northeastern Ohio to the Queen City after his trade from the Cleveland Indians to the Reds at the trade deadline last season. A lot of fans expected great things from the former All-Star. Unfortunately, Bauer never really got going during his first season with the club. I look for 2020 to be a much different story. If there's one thing during his brief time in Cincinnati that fans have learned, it's that Trevor Bauer is his own worst critic. Knowing this, the right-hander can't be overly pleased with his performance over the final games of the 2019 season. After starting the year going 9-8 with a 3.7 ERA in 24 games with the Indians, the California native won just 2 games and 10 starts with the Cincinnati Reds. Bauer's ERA ballooned to 6.39 in 56 1/3 innings of work with his new ball club. That was not the results that fans nor Bauer were looking for. Bauer's numbers were up across the board. In addition to an irregularly high ERA, Bauer's strikeout rate was way down. His walk rate was way up, and so was his home run ratio. And given that Bauer's strikeout rate fell from 30.8% to 27.8%, Bauer's walk rate rose slightly from 8% to 9% last year. The biggest concern, I think, with Bauer, however, may have been the long ball. After giving up just 9 home runs during the 2018 season in Cleveland, Bauer surrendered a career-high 34 home runs last season. His 1.44 HR to 9 innings was the highest OS of his career since 2013. Bauer was 6-0 at Major League Baseball in terms of home runs allowed. But the past is the past, and Bauer has an unbelievable skill set on the mound. In addition to a 94-mile-an-hour fastball, Bauer throws an array of pitches ranging from a slider to a cutter to a curveball, and probably 4 other pitches that we're not even aware of. Bauer is a sage pitcher when it comes to gathering information and applying it to his game. The Cincinnati Reds have really expanded their pitching department this offseason with a big focus on analytics. Kyle Bodie, the founder and owner of Driveline Baseball, joined the Reds in October to be their minor league director of pitching initiatives and pitching coordinator. Now, I'm old. I don't know what the hell that is, but he's got something to do with pitching coordination. Bodie joins highly regarded Reds pitching coach Derek Johnson, who became well-respected throughout Reds country last season. When you saw the improvement of pitchers such as Michael Lorenzen, Robert Stevenson, and Sonny Gray, that showed that Johnson's methods definitely do work. Assistant pitching coach Caleb Cotham deserves a lot of credit as well. Now, with the emphasis on the sabermetric side of pitching, expects more great things from this Red staff in 2020. Gray and fellow starter Luis Castillo established themselves as frontline starters in the Reds' rotation. I'd expect La Piedra to get the ball on opening day again next season. That said, don't be so quick to label Castillo as the Reds' best pitcher. In fact, from where I'm standing currently, I think it's actually Sonny Gray. However, in terms of raw ability, don't be surprised if Trevor Bauer may outdo all of them. We've seen Bauer at his best 2 years ago when he went 12-2 with a 2.21 ERA and finished 6th in the Cy Young race. I'm expecting a big bounce-back season from Bauer in 2020. Being a free agent next offseason will certainly give the 28-year-old extra motivation. Now, suggesting on more than on occasion that he never plans to sign a multi-year agreement, a successful season in 2020 could land Bauer a phenomenal one-year deal next winter, be it with Cincinnati or elsewhere. Now, the next thing we're going to look at today is Nolan Arenado. And what happens if the rumors of him being traded possibly to the St. Louis Cardinals come true? Now, if Arenado finds a new home in the National League Central, the Cincinnati Reds have to amp up the trade pursuits of Francisco Lindor and Corey Seager. Now, rumors are swirling about a potential blockbuster deal between the Cardinals and the Rockies. Arenado's name is at the center of these preliminary discussions. If the Cardinals are able to land the best third baseman in all of baseball, the Cincinnati Reds have to respond with a blockbuster trade of their own. Some of the biggest names in baseball have been rumored to be on the move this winter, from Lindor, Betts, Chris Bryant, and now Arenado. Now, from all we've heard, their names whispered, the most intriguing here is Arenado, who looks to be the most likely player to be moved. Now, originally, he was rumored to be traded to St. Louis or to Texas. The problem is the Rangers recently signed former Cincinnati Reds third baseman Todd Frazier, likely eliminating him from a pursuit of Nolan Arenado. This could spell trouble for the Reds, who have their eyes on a division crown this season. And in terms of offseason acquisitions, the Reds have stood among their NL Central counterparts as the leader. They've added, of course, Akiyama, Miley, Moustakas. Those three moves alone seem to be enough to vault the Reds to at or near the top of the National League Central. However, a St. Louis trade for Arenado could raise serious question marks about Cincinnati's ability to compete for a division championship. The Cardinals won the NL Central last season, and adding a superstar like Arenado would only solidify their spot as the number one team in the division heading into 2020. Should the Cardinals land Arenado, the Reds would have no choice but to respond with a trade of their own. Cincinnati has been rumored to be interested in Francisco Lindor all offseason, and Corey Seager's name has become popular over the past few days. Either way, if the Cardinals had a five-time All-Star, Cincinnati needs to make a competing move. The Reds front office is pledged to make 2020 the year in which this team aggressively pursues a return to the playoffs. The additions made this offseason certainly put Cincinnati in the mix, but one more player the caliber of Lindor or Seager would put the Reds in the driver's seat regardless of any moves the Cardinals make or any other divisional rivals may make. Now, other than Marcell Ozuna or Nicholas Castellanos, no other impact free agent exists on the market. While the Reds could also take that course of action, a trade would be the better way to upgrade the roster. I know fans don't like giving up on prospects, but 2 years of Lindor or Seager would be worth a player like Nick Senzel, Nick Lodell, or Jonathan India. At least that's my opinion. Now, Cincinnati has done enough for the time being to be competitive in the Central. However, if Arenado joins a team in the National League Central, especially the Cardinals, I think more maneuvering is necessary if the Reds want to win the division this year. So, I think the Reds are just trying to see who blinks first. If the Cardinals blink first, a trade for Arenado is possible, and that could cost the Cardinals a lot. And it could force the Reds' hand to make another move before this offseason's up. Now, I think it's possible, even if Arenado doesn't get traded to the Cardinals, that the Reds are still going to go after a Lindor or a Seager. And if they get Lindor or Seager, I think there's no doubt they go in opening day as the front-runners in the National League Central. All right, guys, that does it for tonight. Not a lot of news because we're still in January, but make sure you follow us every week at the Cincinnati Reds Weekly Show. Make sure you listen to all of our shows on iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, wherever you find podcasts. You'll find The Grueling Truth. So this has been Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.